I gripped the steering wheel of my 12-year-old Honda Civic, the familiar hum of its engine a small comfort as the Manhattan skyline loomed closer. The November air was crisp, the city alive with the buzz of Thanksgiving preparations, but my pulse raced for reasons that had nothing to do with holiday cheer. Just 10 minutes ago, I'd nearly died. It happened on the West Side Highway, the road slick from an earlier drizzle. I was weaving through traffic, my mind already bracing for the annual Harper family dinner, a gauntlet of judgment disguised as a holiday. My foot pressed the brake to slow for a merging SUV, but the pedal sank to the floor, lifeless. My stomach lurched as the Honda surged forward, the gap between me and the car ahead shrinking fast. Horns blared. I swerved hard, tires screeching, narrowly missing a delivery truck as I wrestled the car onto the shoulder. My hands shook as I killed the engine, the smell of burnt rubber seeping through the vents. The brakes had been fine yesterday. This wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. I'm Emily Harper, 31, and to the world, or at least to my status-obsessed family, I'm a nobody with a cute little tech hobby and a beat-up car. They don't know I'm the founder and CEO of Quantum Innovations, a cybersecurity empire valued at $500 million. My Manhattan penthouse, tucked behind a modest facade in Chelsea, is a secret I guard as fiercely as the encryption codes that protect my clients' data. For years, I've lived this double life, blending into the background to keep relationships real, to be valued for who I am, not what I own. But tonight, as I sat on the side of the highway, heart pounding, I felt the walls of that carefully constructed world starting to crack. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, the screen lighting up with an anonymous text. "Reveal your secret tonight, or someone at the table pays the price." I stared at the words, my breath catching. Who knew? Who could possibly know? I'd been so careful, only my assistant Rachel and a handful of trusted friends were in on the truth. The message felt like a blade pressed to my throat, sharp and cold. I could turn back, skip the dinner, disappear into the safety of my penthouse, but running wasn't my style. I'd built a company by facing threats head-on, and I wasn't about to let some cryptic warning derail me. Not tonight. I restarted the car, the engine coughing to life, and merged back into traffic, my mind racing faster than the city lights blurring past. The Harper family Thanksgiving was always a performance, a stage for my parents, Victoria and Charles, to flaunt their wealth. Upper East Side mansion, European vacations, a yacht that cost more than most people's homes. My cousin Ethan would be there, probably waving around the keys to his latest $200,000, 0-cent sports car. Aunt Claire would drop hints about stable jobs at her husband's law firm, as if my life's work was a charity case. They'd all look at me with that familiar mix of pity and disdain, their eyes skimming over my simple jeans and sweater, my scuffed Honda parked among their Porsches and Jaguars. They had no idea I could buy their entire world and not feel the dent. The memory of how I got here flickered through my mind as I navigated the city streets. I was 12 when I first found my escape in coding. Ms. Larson, my math teacher, saw something in me, a knack for puzzles, a hunger for logic, and nudged me toward an after-school tech club. The first time I wrote a program that worked, a simple game that lit up the screen, it was like discovering a secret language, one where results mattered more than appearances. My parents, though, saw it differently. "Technology is for the help, Emily," my mother would say, her voice dripping with dismissal. "Focus on something prestigious like law or finance. That's where the real connections are." By 18, I'd had enough of their script. I turned down Yale, their golden ticket to the elite, and chose Stanford's computer science program on a full scholarship. They called it rebellion. They called it freedom. At Stanford, I built the prototype for Quantum Innovations, a platform to shield small businesses from the kind of cyber attacks that could ruin them overnight. A major retailer's data breach in my junior year put my work on the map. An angel investor saw the potential, and by 25, my company was valued at $200 million, 0 cents. Now at 31, we protected 20,000 clients across the globe, with a Series C funding round pushing our valuation to $500 million. 0 cents. I could have lived like my family. Designer clothes, private jets, a penthouse that screamed success. But I didn't. I wore H&M, drove my old Honda, and lived in a place that looked like it belonged to a mid-level programmer, not a CEO. Why? Because I'd seen what wealth does to people. It turns friends into leeches, family into opportunists. I wanted real connections, like the one I had with Lucas, my boyfriend, a high school science teacher who loved me for my ideas, not my bank account. The Harper Mansion came into view, its limestone facade glowing under perfectly placed spotlights. The circular driveway was a showroom of luxury cars. Ethan's Porsche, Aunt Claire's Mercedes SUV, my father's Jaguar. My Honda looked like a stray dog among pedigrees. Marcus, the family valet, opened my door with a polite nod, his eyes flickering with the same confusion he showed every year. "Good evening, Miss Emily," he said, taking my key. I smiled, noticing the faint warmth in his expression. "Hey, Marcus, how's your son doing at NYU?" His face lit up. Surprised, I remembered. "He's studying engineering, made the dean's list." "That's awesome," I said. "Tell him to send me his resume when he's ready." Marcus's grin was the first genuine moment of the night, a reminder of why I kept my wealth quiet, to connect with people, not their expectations. I stepped toward the front door, my stomach tightening as I pressed the doorbell. The anonymous text burned in my mind, "Reveal your secret tonight, or someone at the table pays the price." Was it a prank? A competitor? Someone in the family? I pushed the thought aside, donning my emotional armor as the door swung open. My mother, Victoria, stood there in a designer dress that probably cost more than Marcus's yearly salary. Her smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Emily, darling, you're finally here," she said, her air kiss missing my cheek by inches. The word "finally" carried her usual jab. I was on time, but in Harper world, on time was late. The grand foyer swallowed me whole, its crystal chandelier glinting like a crown above the marble floor. My father, Charles, glanced up from a conversation with Uncle Richard, giving me a distracted nod before diving back into talk of stock portfolios. Cousin Ethan, 34 and smug as ever, caught my eye and smirked, nudging his fiancée Sophie, who was showing off a diamond the size of a grape. "Emily, is that the same sweater from last Christmas?" Sophie asked, her voice loud enough to draw glances. "Good memory," I said, forcing a smile. "It's comfortable." "So economical?" she replied, the words sharp enough to cut glass. Aunt Claire joined in, her cocktail glass tilting as she scanned me head to toe. "You're looking healthy, dear, but maybe a bit tired. Your little tech thing must be exhausting." I hadn't changed an ounce, but her words were a power play, same as always. I took my seat in the formal dining room, the mahogany table gleaming under another chandelier, set with heirloom china and silver that screamed old money. My place card put me between Ethan and my mother's friend Patricia, who'd been trying to set me up with her hedge fund son for years. The room buzzed with the usual Harper performance, Ethan boasting about his new penthouse, Claire detailing her latest charity gala, my mother gushing over their $5 million 0 cents yacht. I stayed quiet, my mind split between their words and the threat from the text. Who was watching me? What did they want? During a lull, I slipped my hand into my coat pocket, hung on a nearby rack, to check my phone. My fingers brushed something cold and unfamiliar. A USB drive. I pulled it out, heart skipping. It wasn't mine. I plugged it into my phone with a discreet adapter and my screen flashed a warning. Malware, designed to infiltrate quantum servers and expose trade secrets. Someone had planted it. I scanned the room, my family oblivious, laughing over their wine. Was it Ethan, jealous of any success he couldn't claim? Claire, with her shady law firm connections? Or someone outside, using the dinner as a trap? Still tinkering with your little websites, Emily. Ethan's voice cut through my thoughts, loud enough to make heads turn. I saw a kid on TikTok doing that. What's it called? Freelancing? Laughter rippled around the table, but my grandmother, Elene, caught my eye. At 85, she was the only one who ever seemed to see me, her gaze steady and kind. I forced a smile. Actually, we protect businesses from cyber attacks. Over 20,000 clients now. Cute, Ethan said, dismissing me with a wave. But let's talk real success. My new place has a rooftop infinity pool. You should see it. Before I could respond, Sophie reached for the wine bottle, her arm brushing my glass. Red wine splashed across my sweater, soaking the light fabric. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her tone too theatrical to be genuine. I grabbed a napkin, dabbing at the stain, but a strange aftertaste lingered in my mouth from a sip I'd taken earlier, bitter, chemical. My head spun slightly, and I realized the spill wasn't an accident. Someone had laced the wine. I set the glass down, my pulse hammering. The USB, the brakes, the text, now this. The threats were closing in, and I was sitting at a table full of suspects. I excused myself to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. My phone buzzed again as I texted Rachel. Found a malware USB in my coat. Wine might be spiked. This is bad. Her reply was instant. Get out now, or tell them who you are and shut this down. I leaned against the sink, the marble cold under my palms. Revealing my identity as Quantum CEO would stop the insults, sure, but it would also change everything. My family would pivot from disdain to greed, and whoever was targeting me would have their confirmation. But staying silent felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. As I splashed water on my face, my eyes caught a glint in the corner. A tiny lens, barely visible behind a decorative tile. A hidden camera. My breath caught. Someone was watching, recording, maybe even streaming this dinner. Was it my family, digging for leverage? A rival, infiltrating their home? Or something worse? I slipped back to the table, my mind racing, the anonymous text echoing, "Reveal your secret tonight, or someone pays." A chandelier's light felt too bright, the room too small. Ethan was mid-story about his latest stock windfall, my mother nodding along, her diamond earrings catching the light. I clutched my phone under the table, ready to call Rachel for our emergency exit plan, when it rang on its own. The sharp chime cut through the chatter, and every eye turned to me. "Really, Emily, during dinner?" my mother snapped. "It might be important," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. I hit speaker and set the phone on the table. "Ms. Harper?" Rachel's voice rang out, crisp and professional. "Your jet is fueled for the Singapore merger tomorrow. The $100 million 0 cents deal is ready for your signature, and the Pentagon confirmed your meeting for the government contract. Also, the $20 million 0 cents Cybersecurity Academy donation was approved." The room went silent. Forks frozen, wine glasses suspended. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's smile faltered, and Ethan's smug grin vanished. Rachel continued, oblivious to the bomb she'd just dropped. "One last thing. Should we deliver the new electric SUV to your Chelsea penthouse or the Hamptons retreat?" I let the silence stretch, my heart pounding but my face calm. "Thank you, Rachel," I said. "The penthouse is fine. I'll review the merger documents tonight." I ended the call, folding my hands in my lap as the grandfather clock ticked in the hallway. Every pair of eyes was on me, shock morphing into calculation. I took a breath, ready to speak, to finally tear down the walls I'd built, but in the back of my mind, the threats loomed larger than ever. The sabotage breaks, the malware, the spiked wine, the camera, the text. Someone wanted my secret out, and now it was. The question wasn't just who. They were here, at this table or watching from the shadows. The real question was, what would they do next? The dining room was a battlefield. Every word a loaded weapon, every glance a potential betrayal. I sat back down, my damp sweater clinging to my skin from Sophie's accidental wine spill. the bitter aftertaste still lingering in my mouth. My phone burned a hole in my pocket, the hidden camera I'd spotted in the bathroom replaying in my mind like a looping horror reel. Someone was watching us. Watching me. And the anonymous text from earlier gnawed at my nerves. Reveal your secret tonight, or someone at the table pays the price. The USB drive I'd found, loaded with malware meant to gut quantum innovations, was still tucked in my sleeve. A ticking bomb. I scanned the faces around the table. My parents, Victoria and Charles, their expressions polished masks of wealth. My cousin Ethan, smirking over his wine. Aunt Claire, her eyes sharp with judgment. And Sophie, Ethan's fiancée, who hadn't stopped watching me since the spill. Even Grandma Evelyn's quiet strength couldn't fully anchor me. The air felt thick, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. Ethan leaned forward, his voice cutting through the clink of silverware. So, Emily, still playing with your little tech hobby? What's it called again? Coding for coffee shops. His laugh was sharp, meant to draw blood, and the table obliged with a ripple of chuckles. My fists clenched under the table, nails digging into my palms. For 8 years I'd let these jabs slide, let them think I was scraping by with some half-baked startup. But tonight, with the sabotaged brakes, the malware, the spiked wine, and that damn camera, my patience was fraying like a worn rope. Actually, I said, my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest, we protect over 20,000 businesses from cyber attacks. Small companies, the kind you'd never notice, Ethan, because they don't have rooftop infinity pools. His smirk faltered, but before he could fire back, my mother's voice sliced in, low but audible, meant for Aunt Claire but landing like a dagger in my gut. Such wasted potential, she murmured. It's embarrassing, really, explaining her career to our friends. Claire nodded, her lips pursed. You'd think she'd at least try to look the part. I felt the sting, sharp and familiar, but Grandma Evelyn's hand found mine under the table, her grip firm. You're stronger than they know, she whispered, her voice a lifeline. I gave her a small nod, my resolve hardening. I could have let it go, kept my secret safe, but the threats were piling up, and silence was starting to feel like surrender. My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a notification from my home security system. I glanced down, my breath catching. A live feed showed 2 figures in black moving through my Chelsea penthouse, rifling through my office. They were methodical, flipping through files, scanning my desk for the external drives where I kept Quantum's most sensitive data. My heart pounded. This wasn't a random break-in. This was coordinated, tied to the brakes, the USB, the wine, the camera. Someone wanted to destroy me, and they were closing in. I forced my eyes back to the table, where Ethan was now bragging about his latest stock windfall, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. My mother smiled tightly, her fingers tracing the rim of her crystal glass, while my father, Charles, droned on about a real estate deal in the Hamptons. I was about to excuse myself again, to call Rachel and get a team to my penthouse, when a folded note appeared under my plate, slipped there so smoothly I hadn't noticed. My pulse spiked as I unfolded it, the words scrawled in sharp, deliberate ink. Your empire falls, unless you walk away tonight. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the intent was clear. This wasn't just a warning. It was a demand for surrender. I scanned the table again, searching for a telltale glance, a nervous tick, but everyone was playing their part in the Harper family charade. Sophie caught my eye, her smile too sweet, and I wondered if she'd slipped the note during her wine stunt. Or was it Ethan, whose tech startup had flopped last year, leaving him bitter and broke? Or my father, whose investment firm had been bleeding clients, desperate for a win? The possibilities twisted in my mind, each one darker than the last. Before I could decide my next move, my phone rang, the sharp chime slicing through the dining room like a gunshot. My mother's eyes narrowed. Really, Emily, during dinner? She snapped, her tone dripping with disapproval. It might be important, I said, my voice calm but my heart racing. I hit speaker and set the phone on the table, knowing what was coming. Rachel and I had planned this, an emergency exit call to give me an out if the night turned unbearable. But now, with the stakes higher than ever, it was about to become something else entirely. "Miss Harper," Rachel's voice came through, crisp and commanding, filling the opulent room. "Your jet is fueled and ready for the Singapore merger tomorrow. The $100 million 0-cent deal is prepped for your signature, and the Pentagon confirmed your meeting for the government contract next week. Also, the $20 million 0-cent donation to the Cybersecurity Academy was approved this morning." The words landed like a grenade, silencing the table. My father's fork clattered to his plate, my mother let out a strangled gasp, and Ethan's wine glass froze halfway to his mouth. Rachel didn't pause. "One last thing, should we deliver the new electric SUV to your Chelsea penthouse or the Hamptons retreat? The customizations you requested are complete." The silence was deafening, the kind that sucks the air out of a room. I let it stretch, my face a mask of calm as I met each pair of stunned eyes. My father's jaw was tight, his knuckles white around his napkin. My mother's perfect smile had collapsed, her hand fluttering to her necklace. Ethan looked like he'd been slapped, and Sophie's eyes darted between us, calculating. Aunt Claire's cocktail glass hovered, forgotten, while Grandma Evelyn gave me a small, proud nod. Even Lily, my 16-year-old cousin, stared wide-eyed, a grin tugging at her lips. "Thank you, Rachel," I said, my voice steady as I ended the call. I folded my hands in my lap, letting the weight of the moment settle. "I suppose I should clarify," I began, my tone deliberate, each word measured. "I'm the founder and CEO of Quantum Innovations, a cybersecurity company valued at $500 million, 0 cents. We protect businesses, small ones, the kind you've never cared about, from threats that could ruin them. I've been telling you this for 8 years, but none of you ever listened." The room stayed frozen, their expressions a mix of shock, disbelief, and something else. Greed, maybe, or envy. My father was the first to recover, his voice sharp with accusation. "You hid this from us, Emily? To embarrass us? To make us look like fools in front of our friends?" His words were a punch, but I'd been expecting them. "I didn't hide anything," I said, meeting his gaze. "I told you exactly what I do every year at this table. You chose to hear what fit your narrative. That, I'm a failure, a disappointment. But I built Quantum without your connections, your money, or your approval." Ethan leaned forward, his face flushed, trying to regain control. "Okay, fine, you've got a little company. But come on, Emily, you're still driving that junkyard Honda. If you're so successful, why live like a nobody?" His tone was desperate, clinging to the superiority he'd always held over me. I smiled, cold and sharp. "I could buy a fleet of Porsches like yours, Ethan, and not blink at the cost. But I don't need to. My car gets me where I need to go, and my worth isn't tied to what I drive. Can you say the same?" Aunt Claire jumped in, her voice syrupy with sudden warmth. "Emily, dear, this is incredible. You know, my husband's firm has a board seat open. Perfect for someone of your stature. I'd be happy to arrange a meeting." I almost laughed at the pivot, the way her condescension had morphed into opportunism in seconds. "Thanks, Claire," I said, "but I employ over 200 people, including a dozen Stanford grads who chose Quantum for our mission. We don't need your firm's charity." My mother tried to smooth things over, her socialite instincts kicking in. "Darling, we've always believed in you," she lied, her smile brittle. "We just didn't understand the scope of your work." I shook my head. 4 months ago, Mom, I told you we closed a $50 million 0 cents funding round. You changed the subject to Sophie's Country Club membership. Don't rewrite history now." The table was a minefield of shifting dynamics, their eyes darting as they recalculated their approach to me. Ethan, desperate to stay relevant, piped up, "You know, I've got this game-changing app idea. Revolutionary, really. Maybe you could take a look, give me your expert opinion." His tone was all false camaraderie, but I saw the hunger in his eyes. Sure, Ethan, I said, my voice flat. But if it's anything like your last startup, it's probably a rehash of something that's been done better. Send me a pitch deck and I'll tell you why it won't work. The jab landed, and his face reddened, but before he could fire back, my phone buzzed again. Another security alert. I glanced at the screen, my stomach dropping. The feed from my penthouse showed the intruders had found my safe, the one with Quantum's encryption keys. They were trying to crack it, their movements frantic. My composure cracked, just for a second, as the pieces clicked together. The brakes, the USB, the wine, the camera, the note, now this, all part of a coordinated attack. And the only people who knew I'd be here tonight were sitting at this table. I stood, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need to go, I said, my voice tight. Early meeting tomorrow, my mother protested, her voice rising. Emily, you can't leave now. We have so much to discuss. My father chimed in, his tone commanding. This is a family matter now. Your company could benefit from our expertise. I shook my head, already moving toward the door. Another time, I said, knowing it was a lie. As I grabbed my coat, Marcus appeared with my keys, his face tense. Miss Emily, you should see your car. I followed him outside, the cold air hitting me like a slap. My Honda sat in the driveway, surrounded by the gleaming luxury cars, but something was wrong. A faint glow flickered under the hood, and then I smelled it. Get back! Marcus shouted, pulling me away as flames erupted, licking up the sides of the car. The family spilled out behind me, gasping, some shouting, but I stood frozen, watching my trusty Civic burn. Marcus grabbed a fire extinguisher from the garage, but it was too late. The blaze was deliberate, the work of an arsonist. Who did this? My father demanded, his voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. Ethan pointed at me, his face twisted. This is because of her, isn't it? What kind of mess are you in, Emily? I ignored him, my eyes locked on the flames, my mind racing. The sabotage, the threats, the break-in, they were all connected, and someone here knew more than they were saying. I turned to Marcus, keeping my voice low. Call the fire department, and get me a cab. I'm not staying. As I waited for the cab, Grandma Evelyn approached, her shawl pulled tight against the November chill. You're in danger, aren't you? She asked, her eyes sharp. I hesitated, then nodded. I'll handle it, I said. She squeezed my arm. You always have. But be careful, Emily. They're not all what they seem. Lily hovered nearby, her face pale but determined. I want to help, she whispered. Whatever you're doing, it's amazing. I managed a small smile. We'll talk soon, Lily. I promise. The cab pulled up and I slid inside, the mansion shrinking in the rearview mirror as the fire truck's sirens wailed in the distance. My phone buzzed again. Rachel. You okay? She asked as soon as I answered. No, I admitted, my voice shaking for the first time that night. Someone's trying to take me down, and I think it's family. I told her everything. The brakes, the USB, the wine, the camera, the note, the break-in, the fire. She was silent for a moment, then said, We need to investigate. Start with Ethan. His startup tanked, and he's been cozying up to your rival, Cybertech. I leaned back in the seat, the city lights blurring past. I'm on it, I said. But first, I need to secure the penthouse. And Rachel, find out who's behind that text. As the cab sped toward Chelsea, I felt the weight of the night settle on my shoulders. My secret was out, my enemies were circling, and the family I'd spent years trying to please might be the ones holding the knife. But I wasn't the scared girl they'd dismissed for so long. I was Emily Harper, CEO of Quantum Innovations, and I'd built an empire by outsmarting threats bigger than this. Whoever was coming for me was about to learn just how dangerous underestimating me could be. The months that followed were a whirlwind of revelation and reckoning. I launched a private investigation, hiring a team of cybersecurity experts to trace the sabotage attempts. The trail led to Ethan, whose failing startup had taken a $2 million, 0 cents loan from Cybertech, my biggest rival. In exchange, he'd fed them intel on Quantum, hoping to destabilize us for a takeover. The breaks, the USB, the wine, the fire, all orchestrated by Cybertech with Ethan as their pawn. I confronted him privately, his excuses crumbling as I laid out the evidence. "I was desperate," he stammered. "You don't know what it's like to fail in this family." I didn't press charges. Family or not, I wanted him to live with his shame. I moved to a secure townhouse in Brooklyn, still modest but fortified with state-of-the-art security. Lucas stood by me through it all, his steady presence a reminder that love didn't need a price tag. Grandma Evelyn and Lily became my anchors, visiting often, with Lily thriving in Quantum's internship program, designing an app to connect underserved students with tech mentors. My parents, meanwhile, grew distant, their pride wounded by my independence. When I uncovered Charles's firm, teetering on bankruptcy, his attempt to sue me for family assets was laughable. I countersued, exposing his shady deals with Cybertech, and he backed off, humiliated. Quantum innovations soared, our global expansion fueled by a new government contract. I stepped fully into my role as CEO, no longer hiding my identity. The Honda was donated to a tech school, replaced by a sleek electric SUV, practical, not flashy, just my style. At a small dinner in my new home, surrounded by Lucas, Evelyn, Lily, and new friends who valued me for me, I raised a glass. "To authentic wealth," I said, "living true to yourself, no matter who tries to tear you down." The room echoed my toast, their smiles warming me in a way my family's approval never could. That Thanksgiving night, as my car burned and my secrets spilled, I thought I'd lost control, but it was the opposite. A liberation. The threats, the betrayal, the fire, they forced me to stop hiding, to claim my truth without apology. I'd spent years building walls to protect my heart, but tearing them down showed me what real strength looks like. Not wealth, not status, but the courage to be yourself in a world that demands you conform. My family may never understand, but I've found my people. Lucas, Evelyn, Lily, and the others who see me, not my bank account. And as for my enemies, they underestimated me once. They won't get a second chance.